Hello, welcome to Being Reintegrated. This is Tim Wright, and now is the point in the journey where we turn the lens. Up till now, we've been in the French and German worlds. The Elucoan, Martinism, Illuminism, Boehme's heirs. Brilliant, yes, but tangled. Their genius was to guard the mysteries. Their weakness was to code them so tightly that meaning itself became a private language. I've reached the place where the labyrinth no longer teaches, it only repeats. So I'm moving south to Naples, where the current of Hermeticism runs in daylight. The Neapolitan mind never separated philosophy, medicine, and theurgy. Its esotericism is expressive, not cryptic. San Severo, Filiat, Schoudy, Krimmers, each wrote so that the reader could work the text, not merely admire it. Naples kept alive the idea that spirit must touch matter and matter must answer back. It's the culture that still believes practice precedes interpretation. When I read Kremers after years in the northern material, Northern Europe, I felt oxygen. The words were simple, the architecture exact. This method was verifiable. Evola then appeared as the metaphysical complement, a mind that built the temple above laboratory Kremers maintained below. Between them, the Italian current revealed itself as a complete initiatic organism. Body goes to soul, goes to spirit, goes to intellect. It's all one continuum. What went wrong in the north is, the French and German Illuminism translated the sacred into allegory and finally into psychology. They meant to universalize it, but the cost was loss of operativity. The work became introspection. By the time Jung appeared, the psyche had eaten the cosmos, so to speak. His discovery of the archetypes was profound. His error was to crown the psyche as world maker. Once that happens, everything turns subjective. Transcendence becomes a mood. I've lived inside that mood. It's seductive. It explains everything, but it never changes anything. The psyche will always rebuild the hierarchy that centers itself. And when that axis wobbles, culture invents substitutes. Religion, politics, ideology, basically anything to keep the mirror intact. Those are what I call axis substitutes, structures that preserve subjective cohesion while the vertical link quietly dies. What saved me from that loop was simple realization. Pneuma and world soul never split, only the psyche did. The psyche screams like a miniature demiurge. There is none other than me, and then spends centuries proving itself wrong. The bump we feel is trauma. The sudden discontinuity of self is the psyche colliding with the real, the non-round energy that doesn't fit its schema. The organism registers it first, somatically, only later does the psyche rush in to patch the story. If we treat the bump only with psychological tools, we heal the narrative but not the field. The psyche relaxes, but it will rise again at the next shock, demanding another axis. Krimmer's realism offers the missing completion. Feel the jolt fully in the body. Let the law of the organism finish what mind began. Then the system doesn't need repair. It resets within the world soul itself. I've said before that I'm a phenomenologist. This is my presentation of the phenomenology of why Naples actually has it down perfectly. Krimmer said that he does not think abstractly. He meant it. For him, knowledge is biological alignment. The body isn't the enemy of the spirit. It's the proof that spirit has already entered form. The Neapolitan current sees every true operation, prayer, healing, transmutation, as the synchronization of cosmic and cellular rhythms. To think abstractly is to float above the law. To work somatically is to live within it. This is why his system frightened later interpreters. Marco Daffy and others tried to psychologize him to make him safe for the 20th century, and in doing so, they neutralized the current. They turned an operative science into a mental hygiene. The point isn't to judge them. They were speaking their era's language, but it's time to recover the original tongue, practice before abstraction, body before symbol. Evola and the crown of the work. Evola takes the same current and lifts it into pure metaphysics. Where Kremers builds the vessel, Evola describes the light that fills it, the transformation of ordinary awareness into the solar self, the unconditioned beyond birth and death. His introduction to magic series is the upper temple of the same structure whose foundations Kremers laid. Read together, they outline a full doctrine of ascent, not as metaphor, but as method. My optical laboratory is Patreon. I'm going to keep the magnification model. There's a 25 times, which is the history, context, and culture. These are some of my talks. The 100-time mechanism, which is the doctrine maps and the terminology. The 10,000 time, the operative symbolism that parallels across texts. And then the 1,000,000 time initiatic microscopy, which is a structural analysis. I may do this in private seminars, I'm not sure. Each tier feeds the next. The goal isn't hierarchy, but resolution. Clarity of vision appropriate to the distance. So ethos and the boundaries. I'm not here to argue authorities. I'm here to curate a line of continuity that works. Publicly, I'm going to cite text, dates, and verifiable doctrine. And privately, I'll preserve the deeper lineage hypotheses that shape those doctrines. The work itself will speak. I want readers and listeners who are ready to do the thinking, not just receive conclusions. When reflection replaces ideology, the psyche gets a break. When body and world soul reconnect, society gets one too. Jung glimpsed this when he wrote that reflection integrates the infimum malum and then ends the obsession with the summum bonum. Esoterically, that means the axis ceases to swing between heaven and hell. It steadies in being reintegrated. If enough individuals learn this stillness, perhaps our collective machinery of compensation can rest. So I made some books, and I'm making books. There's basically the Golden Current series, which is the 4 accessible gateways into Kremers' teachings, which are essentially the bodies. The complete works of Kremers in English. I have translated Kremers. There's an Evola integration project. You know, Evola split from Kremers in the Miriam tradition, and then he went into and the introduction to magic. So I kind of don't want to let that split rest. We're going to reintegrate that back together. The trilogy is going to be presented as the metaphysical apex of the same current. That starts from Kremers, which is what he says in his introduction, and then ends in Evola's metaphysics. This is ultimately Hermeticism revealed, the synthesis that unites these materials into a coherent Italian initiatic philosophy, which I think is the revelation of Hermeticism rather than the hiding in the Hermetic alembic of locking up things that should not be exposed without that kind of very deep understanding. Integration isn't the psyche managing its wounds, it's the living body remembering it was never separate from the field that sustains it. When that remembrance stabilizes, the self loses its need for domination, and the work can begin in silence. So this shift from the northern Europe to the Neapolitan current is a move from secrecy to operativity, from psyche to pneuma, from abstraction to embodiment. Kremers gives the method, Evola gives the crown. My role is to translate the continuum into a clear English study so anyone ready to move beyond the psychological frame can find a living path.